Shriman ji, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Muruga. Thanks so much
Om
for your time.
Maya Om.
Yeah, so I'll do a quick recap from our session yesterday, so that we can pick it up from where we left it. So yesterday we obviously talked about, in session one, we talked about dharma and some best practices of dharma, right? We focused a lot more on food. We talked about learning from diversity. In the way I internalized that was humility to learn from everybody and everything. And three, we talked about choosing a simple alternate lifestyle and being open to it. And also four, we talked about Vratha, experimenting and taking vows and experimenting with different things, right? And all of that to support the Atman within, and to the guiding principle being having the divinity in all of us to express itself, right? That being the guiding principle and the end goal. So if I can again focus a little more on Vratha, I think we didn't get to spend enough time on Vratha itself. So I would like to get your thoughts and expand on Vratha as a concept.
Yes, sir. Vratha is a commitment to oneself. When the Atman, as the Jivatma, we are the divinity expressing, and that expression leads to experience, which leads to fulfillment, which is the reason why we are expressing in the first place. So it is to gain a fulfilling experience. And towards that, we project our desires onto various objects, various circumstances, various ideas, knowledge, and all of these. The link between the object, either sthula or sukshma, that is, the outer gross objects or the inner subtler objects in terms of ideas and so on. The link is our own desire, our own ichcha to gain experience. And towards gaining a fulfilling experience, we repeatedly engage with the objects, looking at it from multiple angles, till we have a 360-degree view of that reality of those objects and get fulfilled. Let's imagine something like, let's say, you have a biometric signature. When you place your thumb, it'll ask you to place in multiple angles, and then finally a reasonable enough biometric pattern is available, then it's satisfied. So similarly, when we project a desire, the circumstances or the objects, we need a multi-angled vision until we feel satisfied, we feel fulfilled. That is the nature of projection onto this reality. Okay, this is in very simple terms. I'm giving a very high-level view. Obviously, as we go into details, we see this universe is vast and diverse kinds of projections, and that's a lot of fun. It is Leela. It's a divine play in which we can project any which way, and the play will adapt. The circumstances will adapt to those projections. And depending on the nature of the collective projections, we experience, through collective reality, the individual experiences. And through the individual experience, it is further, added to the collective reality. In terms of physical objects, in terms of emotions, in terms of thoughts, ideas, knowledge, and values. So why are these valuable to the Jivatma? Why are these valuable to the individual? It's in terms of giving us multi-angled perspective of that desire projection, which leads to fulfillment. right? So when we understand the nature of this experience, now when we project, when we say project, we are not unidimensionally projecting. As we have deeper and deeper projections in terms of, say, for example, I want to lead a good life. And what is meant by a good life? So that's a projection. I want to lead a good life. And there, let's say we are informed by society that a good life means a good, car, bungalow, good health, access to good health care in terms of hospitals, access to good education in terms of international degrees. When we are projecting like this, obviously that means that many other sub-projections or many other sub-aspects which hold that projection become, become important. To satisfy one, there will also be another that conflicts. For example, I want to earn a lot of money for getting a bungalow, an urban place. But at the same time, I need to spend time with my family. I want to go on vacation. I want to spend time on healthcare. I want to spend time on meditation. So all of these come into play. And hence, sometimes a conflict develops. Right? And that conflict seems burdensome. Then one loses perspective of why one started in the first place. So that's why Vratha is like a lab space. It is like sandboxing. For that point in time, that period of time, I am going to hold on to this no matter what. So that is creating something like a lab environment. So in a laboratory setup, you isolate confounding variables where so many interacting parameters in real world one keeps away and then holds on to certain objective parameters to get a direct intense view from not necessarily a 360-degree view, but an intense view which is consciously held for that period of time. And that will give us good experience with respect to that projection. Right? So when we take, for example, a Vratha, like I'm going to speak the truth for one day, no matter what. Now, this is like creating a sandbox or a lab setup where objectively we are going to gain experience with respect to that value called truth. And we commit to ourselves that I'm going to speak the truth for this day. Then, just because we hold on to that, now various other parameters become visible with respect to this. And those parameters otherwise would be hidden because we are not consciously holding on to this. It is just like, for example, when someone tries to buy a bike, a young person decides to buy a motorcycle. Only then the diverse kinds of vehicles, motorbikes in the in the vicinity on the road become visible to that young person, young adult who wishes to buy a motorcycle. Oh, these are the brands that are there. Then gradually they start discussing about, okay, what are the other parameters like mileage? How much mileage will this give? What is the maintenance for this bike? Which bike should I buy? So only when we hold on to that do other parameters become visible. Till then, those details do not emerge in the vision of the young adult. Only when they hold on to the idea of buying a bike do other parameters become visible. And that becomes the nature of exploration, nature of experience. Once one buys the bike, then that settles down, because by then, all the details which have enriched the nature of the experience, uh, one has gained sufficient experience. That is the principle. The same principle applies to a vrata. When we hold on to a value that we want in our life, when we hold on to, say, for example, uh, uh, I should do this much japa during Shashti. So for Shashti, I am going to do this much japa on Murugan. If we take on such a vrata, then we'll start seeing, okay, I need to go to work. In my work interactions, how will I sustain this? What should I eat to sustain this? What should I do to sustain this? All these start becoming visible only then. Otherwise, all those other parameters are in the background, never come into the foreground, and hence not visible, and hence gradually become visible over a long period of time. So Vratha is a process of accelerating this aspect of gaining rich experience within a very short period of time. And certain Vratas are repeated, because every Shashti I'm going to do this. Every Shashti I'm going to give Annadanam. If we take such Vratas, then what happens? That samskara, this is called a samskara, or a good habit formation. So a good habit is formed wherein we share food during that Shashti as a vrata. For this number of, a vrata is always defined, a defined number of cycles. It is just like setting calendar entry. In calendar entry, you can have once you can do it, or this a period of time you can do it, these many days, or for a week, every this time to this time you can do it, or you can repeat that every week, weekday, for these many times, 10 times, 11 times you can do it. Like this, it can be set. The vrata can be determined. The idea is to grow in confidence. The idea is to grow in experience gained from exploration. So that experience, how do you position it? So initially, you test your capability and gradually grow in the vrata. So vrata is a commitment to oneself for one's own growth, especially spiritual growth. That's why in Sanatana Dharma, or in the Hindu religious tradition, these vratas are considered very sacred. But one gradually builds up one's will to take up complex vratas. So it is a growth trajectory.
Understood. The way I'm internalizing, in fact, funny story here in my household. Typically, when we talk about vrata, typically revolves around food, right? But we are talking about a lot more holistic concept of vrata, where, hey, if you again, I'm going back to the guiding principle. If you want divinity to express itself, if you want to progress spiritually, right? Again, I'm seeing a huge overlap between what you just mentioned to what Patanjali Yoga Sutra talks about, Ashtanga Yoga, right? Yama Niyamas, right? And it is not going to be easy. So how do we get there? And Vratha seems to be sort of a tool or the process to actually form good Yama Niyamas, right? And then progress further, right? Especially some of us who are beginners, we cannot just go from 0 to 100. So how do we go progressively to 100? And that's how I'm seeing this. This is a process that is holistic, and it actually puts all the subsets together to help any individual who wants to make that progression.
Yes, that is true. So, because if that clarity is not there, because what is the outcome of a vrata? The outcome of a vrata is for the Jivatma to experience that divine expression.
Right.
That is the outcome. And for that, visibility becomes important, because somewhere there would be lack of visibility of why is this principle needed? Why is this value needed? That's why, as you beautifully put it, yama niyama, you'd see almost everything is to do with those value systems. For example, simple value system of truth. Why should I be truthful? Why should there be honesty, integrity? That might not be visible how do you make it visible? And for that, what is the nature of thought? How does thought, words and actions, how do they align? That can be a powerful vratha, because if you need to see the alignment, you'll need to be able to trace what are you doing, how is it related to what are you speaking, and what are you thinking. How can you align it? It's very complex. It's not easy to. So, how do you make it visible in your life? For that to shine the light of awareness in such process, a vrata becomes very, very helpful, very powerful. So a vrata is taken until you integrate it, until you master it. That's why for integration, for mastery, for visibility, one of the key things is availability. So one should be available to be aware. So otherwise awareness switches off. When does awareness switch off? For example, sleep. You're completely unconscious. Then a vrata is no use, right? And sleep and let's say distracting thoughts or ideas or this, that can be very problematic, because we might forget the vrata. So that's why many traditions, especially the Hindu tradition, focuses on food for a vrata, so that sattvic ahara, with no too much, say people will give up salt, because it disturbs the quality of the attention, quality of the awareness. Then it's very easy to forget that we took a resolution. So it is just like many people take up New Year resolution, and they will not be able to sustain it even for one day or 1 week. Why does it fail? Because one of the key parameters is understanding the linkage between food in terms of physical food, also food for thought. So what goes in through your devices and so on, that also the impact of it can be measured on reliable orientation of your mind, of your chitta. So gaining that reliability, one needs slight experimentation, and that's where vratas help. Even starting with simple vratas like every Shashti, I'm going to provide Annadan. Every Shashti, I'm going to take up 1 hour of Mauna. Every Shashti, I'm going to eat this ahara, sattvic food without uppu puli, or no tamarind, no salt. So experimenting, playing with it, gaining data points of experience, that is the way to grow spiritually. But gradually, we are not constrained by the environment. Gradually, we feel free no matter where we are.
Right. It resonates with me a lot, especially when I think about Vratha as constructing a controlled space, controlled environment, so that you can keep all the conflicting desires away, and then you're trying something out, the very specific objective and a goal. When we are younger, somebody tells you, hey, do this Vratha, do that Vratha, without telling you why you need to do it, it never sticks, right? Yeah. But now having a specific goal in mind and fully knowing I'm just going to experiment this so that I can eventually attain that goal, and I can incorporate this as, how I think and how I live life eventually, is a great way to structure it in our head.
Exactly. And when we structure it appropriately, there is enhanced participation. Otherwise, you can suffer through the vrata. Right. You have taken a resolution and you suffer through it. What's the fun? There's no fun. And right. That does not mean no resolution at all. That's also not great, because enhanced growth is the birthright of everybody. So that way, rightly structuring it means also investing in the idea of why. Why am I doing what I'm doing? And when we ask the question why, it's some effort to figure out why in your own mind, right? It's not automatic. You ask the question why and you don't get an immediate answer, then you give it up. One cannot proceed like that. More complex questions require pursuing answers. Because it's the nature of the question itself is slightly complex. So why should I do this? Why should I hold on to truth, for example? It's a complex question. That means it takes a little more effort or a lot more effort to figure out. And that is the process of growth where there is good conviction that gets built. So that's why structuring it is also developing a perspective that allows you to participate in your own growth process.
Interesting. I mean, I think for some of us who've been in the spiritual path and the journey, we've been constantly asking the why questions. How does one approach dharma when the answer to the why is probably not as simple or not organic or natural? Meaning, if we say, hey, the why is you letting the divinity, unfold and express itself. Let's say that is not a concept that immediately resonate with them. How should they approach it?
So that's where one can start wherever one is. When we say wherever, generally, we have been heavily conditioned by the current educational process or the societal process, heavily conditioned to be objectively oriented. So objective means out there. So why, we are conditioned to think of it as, some purpose out there. So why should I do something? A benefit out there. So objective benefit. So projection onto the objective reality. I study to get a job. With a job, I can buy a bungalow, a car, like that. No, so the projection is always out there. When that is the case, then it is, in one sense, it is reducing the flow and unidimensionalizing it. So this is not wrong. For a period of time, if it is done, it is okay. But it will not hold beyond a certain time. For example, why, what is the purpose of my life? Why should I live? If we define it as I live to enjoy good food, okay, let's say. Then if you define it like this, why am I alive? To enjoy good food. Then if you eat one gulab jamun, it feels enjoyable. If you eat one more, good fun. A few more, 10 more. After that, it starts becoming, this is the law of diminishing returns. Right? So then you will have to rework on your purpose of life. Why should I live? To eat gulab jamun. Oh, but 10 gulab jamuns, it feels sick.
Right.
But then you need to look further. And further means, let's say, you need a more complex definition of why do it. So let's say you define your purpose of life as, earning a lot of money, gaining a lot of wealth, material prosperity. Then again, you would see that, you work hard, you will hit a limit where there'll be law of diminishing returns, where you have earned $1 million, let's say. Or, after that, what do you do with that wealth? That wealth is nothing but just a number.
Right.
That number will no longer be satisfying for you. So you need to invest in redefining your idea of why again, because you have hit a limit. Because only that much is the returns that you can expect from such a definition of why am I alive? So let's say you redefine it into, I need to get good status, prestige, position in society. Okay, that is slightly more complex because it has to do with the society around you, how it perceives you. That is a lot more complex than just objective wealth, objective material wealth. So when we work like that, then again we hit a limit as to, we see, okay, I have good name, fame, all of that, prestige, position, status, and yet there is a limit to it. No, we hit the limits. So we need to, as we redefine, then we come to the inner dimension. Right? We hit the limits of outer projection. because the outer projections, we hit the limit, clearly. So wherever you are means, when we say wherever, it's to do with however you position the question why.
Right.
Why am I doing what I'm doing? You can start anywhere. But gradually, as you work deeper and deeper, you will hit the limit of outer projections. That's when you turn inward, where you look at the question why itself. Should I define it for this purpose? Or can I include, for example, value purposes? For example, I should be happy. I should also be truthful. I should be in a state of a conscience where my conscience does not trick.
Right.
It should be ethical. It should be dharmic. That's where the idea of dharma comes. So when we project externally, no problem. But simultaneously, we will need to project internally as well, so that we are comfortable with the whole scheme of things. It is just like a tree is not just growing upward; it's also growing into the earth, which is not visible. Right. So those are the inner dimensions which sustain the outward projection. Without those inner dimensions, fundamentally the question why defines your state of experience. You might have all the wealth, but if that why is very utilitarian, then you can suffer, because all that wealth will still not help you sleep peacefully. All that glory will still not help you be able to enjoy that glory. So all these become subjective aspects. That's why the subjective aspect has to be united with the objective aspects, not just the objective aspects. So as we grow richer and richer, we encounter these subjective dimensions. And that itself is worth investing in, because it's not automatic. Just as gaining a lot of wealth is not automatic. It takes effort. And those who have wealth through generations, they may not respect it, and they may lose it until they regain it. So similarly, the inner dimensions, the subjective dimensions, have to be invested in, and hence the reasoning as to why am I doing what I am doing, that itself becomes a purpose to invest in and grow. And that's where the idea of dharma becomes very critical, because your view, your perspective on why you're doing, you can define it by narrow terms. This is called kama or artha. But dharma is expansive definition of why you're doing what you're doing. And there, let me share a story, an anecdote with you here. Once I was traveling in the Himalayas, we regularly take people on Himalayan yatra. So once this was after monsoon, and we were stuck in a traffic jam caused by a landslide. Nobody was hurt. The government is very efficient in bringing people onto the scene and then clearing away the debris. So I was observing a old lady breaking stones. Her presence was very inspiring. So I approached her and asked her, Maji, aap kahan se hain? Your mother, where are you from? She said, "Yahi paas gaon se hu. I'm from a nearby village." How long have you been doing this? From childhood, I have been doing this. And I asked her, why do you do this? She simply said, you should be, you should safely reach home and be happy. Simple, straight answer. So she's breaking stones. She could have said, when I asked her, why are you doing this? She could have said, what to do. I'm constrained. I have no other go. Life has provided only this. What you are all enjoying, but I have to break stones. She could have said that. She did not choose to say that. She could have said, I have grandchildren at home. I need to anyhow earn for their living. She could have said that. She did not choose to say that. She chose to say to someone she does not know, someone who she need not impress, someone who she might not see again, has not seen, might not see again. To such a person, to a yatri, she's just saying, you need to safely reach home and be happy. That's why I'm doing this. So you can see this kind of definition of why am I doing what I'm doing, when it is not just objective, when it is subjective and linked with the objective reality. It transfers immense benefit, both ways. So I as a Yatri is also benefited. She is also benefited because anyhow, she's breaking stones. It's hard work, but she's not suffering that work. Now we see so many people, since they don't invest in this why dimension, they don't link the subjective and the objective aspects. This is the idea of dharma, where the subjective and the objective is harmonized. And that allows one to participate in one's own circumstances. If it is just objectified, then this is called karma phala. Well, why am I doing what I'm doing? It's just karma phala. Karma phala is seen out there. So karma phala tyaga means linking the subjective and the objective dimensions. Then actually one really grows, one prospers, one is also happy, fulfilled, and that is serious wealth. So material wealth as well as inner wealth. So objective wealth and subjective wealth are united. And subjective wealth is equally important. Happiness, good values, peace of mind, conscience being clear. All of these are subjective wealth, which everyone needs to enjoy. This is everyone's birthright. But since we are not taught to look at it that way, we suffer dharma.
Thanks for sharing the anecdote. I think, as you rightly said, the answers to that why question could have been so many, but she has chosen the most inspiring one that provides meaning to the work, right? I especially asked the question around, what if the why, the current answer to the why questions for many of our viewers may not be our guiding principle. How do they navigate, right? If they are in a different place altogether, practicing dharma will, as you rightly said, will feel like a burden, right, rather than providing value to them. I think it is very, very important for anybody for that matter to start introspecting, and it is not a one-step process, right? It is a continuous process. So they have to introspect, and like Upanishads say, like applying neti, right? So like, is it this, is it that, is it this, and applying our guiding principle that we talked about. What is permanent, what is impermanent, right? I think one would, at least according to me, if I can say so, will arrive at the only conclusion, which is for them to have divinity, again, attain, get to the truth, and arrive at the only answer, which is, reaching Atman, right, Paramatma. That is the point I was trying to make. And again, I'm pivoting back to our dharmic best practices, right? We talked about food, learning, lifestyle, Vratha, which again is opening up a new dimension in my, for myself. I will have to ponder a little more. What else would a sadhak also focus on from a best practices perspective?
So when the idea of sadhana is the means to reach a sadhya. Sadhya means the goal. So as you have beautifully put it, as is also is the Vedanta Siddhanta. If we look at all our rishis, siddhas, the Mahatmas talk of the Upanishad truths, reaching to a state of self-realization, God realization, reaching to the fundamental principles of this reality. The Veda Mahavakyas represented. In all spiritual traditions, it is represented. And so reaching means it's a journey where the goal is that. Now, the human journey is something like that, where the goal is this, reaching to yourself, right? And through diverse means. So it is the art of navigating through these externalities and internalities to reach some place which you already are. So this can be quite complex for many people to get. Then there's no purpose. No, that's not it. So it's a complex journey, and the journeying is more initially it can seem outward, But through the process of sadhana, when we say sadhana, we are concretely calling it with a spiritual connotation. That means the journey, inner journey becomes, so the outer journey, everything is seen in the light of the inner journey, right? Where the sadhya, the goal is that ultimate spiritual transformation by which you reach home. Okay, that's why in the Tamil tradition, in the Siddha tradition, beautifully it said, moksha is called Veedu Thirumbaradu. So returning back home, returning back to the source, that's a beautiful way to describe it, right? It's very descriptive. In that sense, the sadhana, obviously, the spiritual connotation, it's returning back to the source, returning back to who you truly are, realizing it completely. And that journeying creates that necessary conviction, necessary scaffolding, necessary navigational principles that help you gain a fulfilling life experience, and hence that settlement, that conviction in who you are. You can try out various identities as part of the journey, and finally get convinced that this is not who you are. This is not who you are. You thought you were this. You had thought you were this, and finally arrive at the source, the simple realization of who you are. And that is beautifully captured in Veda Mahavakyas or in Siddha Mahavakyas and so on. It's beautifully captured. For example, it's captured like Tat Tvam Asi. You are that. Don't worry. You are that. And what is that? That's full philosophy. But the whole idea is, the idea of sadhana is to be able to journey from wherever you are, from whichever standpoint, whichever perspective, whichever identity you hold on to. That is who you are. From there, you can journey to this place which the rishis beautifully describe, to this viewpoint, to this standpoint, to this core absolute principle that governs all this reality. You can journey to that, and that is very critical. So that is the journey which is called sadhana. Sadhya is that goal, right? So when we understand this, there is a beautiful inner journey where every aspect is transformed into sadhana. So initially, for a sadhaka, the perspective will be, what should I do? What should I do? Doing is equated to journey. Okay. So what should I do? It's external doing. For example, should I meditate for these many hours? Should I do asana, pranayama? What should I do? What should I do? And also linking it with the peak experience. Peak experience. If I do this, I will get this. I will get this. I will get this. So that is the objective projection that initially happens, because the mind is highly conditioned to objective projection. And that's what sadhana is initially for many people who start the spiritual journey. That's absolutely fascinating, because one gets a lot of experiences through that process of practices and so on. Gradually, the idea of sadhana becomes multidimensional, where more and more dimensions start getting added, and it becomes holistic. And that way, the entire life becomes sadhana. Gradually, that happens. That has to happen. And then one is not looking at the goal as a peak experience. Not running here, not running there, in terms of what can I experience, how can I gain more, how can I gain more. That settles down. And that's when serious sadhana happens. Okay. And that is in terms of transformation. So the transformatory sadhana, that transformation is generally linked with the Guru Shishya Parampara. That's when the Guru's role is. Not just in giving some practices or not just giving some peak experiences. Till that time, you don't need a Guru. When it comes to complete transformation, because then it gets very complex, because it's multidimensional. There are so many nuances to it. Then the Guru's presence, the Guru Parampara, the Guru Mandala, that presence, when we say Guru, it's very deep concept. So the presence becomes very, very important for that ultimate transformation. It's a transformation that leads you home, where you're settled once and for all. That is the essence of spiritual practices. This is Siddhantam. So it points at complete transformation. And there you can start anywhere.
Right.
With the intention guiding you, you'll be guided to the Guru, and that will help further the purpose of the transformative process. So that's why when we say sadhana, it is very good to start with some goal in mind in terms of some peak experience, or I need to transform my life. I need to do asana, pranayama, I need to do japa, I need to do dhyana, puja. All these become important. These are captured as charyai, kriyai, yoga, jnana in the Siddha tradition. For example, Tirumular and Tirumandiram clearly mentions such pathways. So this is a beautiful process where you as the Jivatma actually can, this is an enjoyable journey. This is not at all a journey of suffering, but one can intensify it, one can gain the support, and that's where at some time in the journey, one will need a supportive environment. That is the role of an ashram. That's why gurus generally set up ashrams. Uh, there are others who don't set up ashrams. That is also equally important. So the ashram is to provide a collective space where this journey one can, because the intent of the space itself is this, to assist that journey. The diversity of activities, all that depends on the samskaras of the guru, the parampara. But otherwise, the intent of the space itself is to assist in this journey. So the collective space is there, which helps one to grow in this sadhana of journey. Otherwise, in a regular, say, urban setup, people might not understand, your inner path. Initially, that might be a limitation because you're expecting some support, some feedback, or some what is called positive reinforcement from the environment till you grow strong. It is like a growing sapling. It requires some support. As it grows bigger, then it does not require support. So like that, a positive reinforcement based growth would be very useful during certain periods of one's sadhana. So that's where seeking an ashram, seeking a guru becomes very useful to propel ourselves further.
Right. So if I can noodle on this a bit more, Shrimanji, could you highlight or elucidate a little more on the Guru Sishya Parampara, and help the viewers understand what does it really mean? What does the relationship look like? Physical proximity versus non-physical proximity, etc.,
etc. Everyone wants a general idea. So let me present a general idea because it's highly specific. Whenever we say Guru Shishya Parampara, there is no comparison because it's a one-on-one relationship. It is not a one-to-many relationship. It's not like that. Or many-to-many relationship. It's not like that. It's a one-on-one relationship generally. So here I will try to present a general view, general knowledge view. Okay. Let me use an analogy here. If we are going through the education process, we go through schooling, then we have undergraduate education, then we have postgraduate education, then we come to a PhD level education. So all these are education. Okay. But when we have, say, school level or undergraduate or even master's level education, we start seeing a growth in knowledge, and the processes applicable at each stage also get refined appropriately. Okay. So at the school level, it would be certain ways. There will be more structures. There will be more timetabled. there will be more specifications, there will be more rules and regulations, and so on. Okay. As we go into higher education, there will be a little more freedom, but there will be still, for example, a subject professor and many students studying that subject, and one goes from one class to another class to another class. So like that would be the journey. Masters, there would be a little bit of research component, a little bit of research papers, but till that time, it is still one-to-many education. So it is more like a generic education. Okay, and one gets certificates. There is still good structure, but when it comes to PhD, there is apparently no structure. Fundamentally, it's for the doctoral committee or the guide to declare that all top PhD programs work like this. The guide or the doctoral committee decide that yes, you can now be awarded a PhD degree. So that means it's highly subjective. It's dealing more with values of how you approach research than the objective aspects. Okay, the more you focus on the objective aspects, the more the structures will be, the more it will be certificate oriented. It will be oriented towards tangible outcomes. At the PhD level, it will be one-on-one connection with the guide. There will always be a guide. Without the guide, you cannot do a PhD in modern education. And it will be to do with intangible outcomes, right? That's why it's called a doctorate in philosophy, doctor of philosophy. And philosophy is intangible outcomes, while unifying principles become visible. That's the idea. Whether it happens now or not, it's different. But the idea of a PhD, so you may do engineering, you may do medicine, you may do arts, you may do sciences, you may do anything. The ultimate degree is PhD.
Right.
So you can imagine how philosophy integrates. And philosophy means darshana, your viewpoint should be integrated. And that is assessed. The unifying principles, are they visible to you no matter what? That's the goal of a PhD. And that is by one-to-one relationship with the guru, because it's an inner journey. So till master's education, you can have structures, you can have timetables, you can have curriculums, you can have certificates, you can have tangible outcomes. Similarly, in the spiritual tradition, if you're starting out on sadhana, when do you need a guru? You can learn from many people. You can have, that is investing in your own growth. You invest, you grow. Whoever you are convinced with, whichever path you are convinced with, just as some people take up this education, that education, whichever path you are convinced with, you keep working on it. You get some practices, you develop some structures, you develop some schedule, you develop a pathway, get some tangible outcomes in terms of spiritual experiences. That's how to grow. Okay. Then you will hit a point where you will definitely feel you need to go further.
Right.
And just this structure, just this, you have explored sufficiently, but just this alone is not sufficient. That is the time. It is just like one decides to do a PhD with full intention, not just for what's the utility of a PhD, not like that, because then it's not philosophy, where you have explored objective spiritual dimensions, spiritual aspects, and that's it. You have reached the limit. That's when the role of a guru becomes very critical, to show you the path where there is no path, because it's intangible, right? Still, the path is visible to the guru, but not to the disciple. So that is when one starts becoming ready for the Guru Shishya Parampara. It's the Parampara. So that direct linkage where it's then it's not one to many, or you learn from everybody. That stage has been transcended. Now you're ready for one-on-one, and that's very serious, very sincere. That's a very different step altogether. Will everyone be ready for it? No. It takes a lot of journeying to arrive at that conviction that now I need a guru. Without that, I cannot by myself proceed. So that is when it is like PhD. One arrives at the point that one feels, no, I need a PhD. I need to explore the deeper philosophical aspects. So then one approaches a guru in that bhava. Then it is not about the structure, it is not about tangible outcomes, it's not about a structured outcome can be given over a weekend. There can be asana programs, there can be yoga programs. But a Guru Shishya Parampara does not come into any structure in this sense because it's not tangible outcomes that is visible to anybody but the Guru and the Shishya. Mostly not to the Shishya also. It will be visible only to the Guru. So like that is the relationship. So it requires absolute Shraddha, it requires absolute faith, and that develops over a period of time. But this has to be understood. It's just like not everyone aspires to do a PhD. Similarly, not everyone aspires to be part of the Guru Shishya Parampara. But benefiting from a Guru, one can. So when one says Guru, if one is looking at in terms of tangible outcomes, that is still the stage of, I would say, up to master's education. There is a certificate, there is some tangible outcome. But that's the limit. One should have transcended that stage to be eligible, for the Guru Shishya Parampara. This is how generally the Siddha Sampradaya works.
Yep. So the reason I asked that question, Shrimanji, is we are talking about dharma, dharmic principles, best practices, and all of that. When and everybody should pursue the path, right? And continue to introspect, clarify the goals and objectives, follow the principles. And as they progress along, I'm sure there will be a point where, like, okay, I've hit this spot and I want to progress further. And as you rightly said, the path of no path, right? It's not a path that is being often walked, right? And then you need somebody who can take your hand. It's not like you have Google Maps, right? So there is no map. It's a very undeterministic process, right? It's not like X plus Y equals Z. So then at that point, you will require a guide who's a guru who can take you, hold your hand, and show you the path, right? And know where you are and choose the path accordingly. So, and that is also part of the dharmic umbrella, right? The Guru Shishya Parampara also comes under that. And I just wanted to connect the dots for our viewers.
Yes, that is beautifully stated. So, as you rightly said, when we take the spiritual traditions, guru, they can offer deterministic pathways. So, deterministic pathways mean benefits, tangible, and so on. Deterministic. It's like classical physics. Right. Classical physics offers deterministic pathways to understand reality. When we take up quantum physics, the movement of everything, for example, you'll have Brownian motion, which will seem like chaotic all over the place. It is multidimensional and hence non-deterministic. But yet there is a movement, there is a physics to it, right? But vastly different from the deterministic physics of classical dimension. So similarly, even in the spiritual tradition, you have the classical physical aspect like deterministic pathways. But when it comes to the Guru Shishya Parampara, this is typically like the quantum dimensions. There is growth, there is movement, but it is multidimensional. And it cannot be compared. There is no comparison between one and the other. That's when there is a one-on-one relationship. With classical physics, just like deterministic pathways, it's not a one-on-one relationship with the Guru. Though one might feel there will be bhakti, there will be shraddha, all that is very good. These are all preparatory. But once one hits a Guru Shishya Parampara, it's a very different, it is just like quantum dimensions, where there is movement, but it will be Brownian, or it will be, not at all visible outwardly. there generally we in the Siddha Sampradaya, we look at the individual, linking up completely with the Guru Tattva. So that means one's own rina, the bandhanas, everything one frees up to be able to completely link with the Guru Tattva. So that way, the movement will be, from then on, the movement will be very different from, it is not projected, it's not generalized. It is linked. It is like the quantum dimensions. So if one is aware of that, then appropriately expectations become modeled. So the advancement is in terms of the Shishya. Becoming a Shishya is a highly advanced state. That is how it is considered practically, because it is like entering the quantum dimension.
That is, we are at the 1 hour mark. Shrimanji, fantastic discussion. I'm sure we can, keep going, but we're probably for the next day, we'll reserve, and I will think harder in terms of connecting the dots with exactly what we spoke about to our next topic.
Yes. That will be really wonderful, Sridharanji. The conversation has been very lively and very interesting. It is like a live flow. That's how I experience it, and it depends on the listener. And you are a great listener, and hence I'm also interestingly listening to what is flowing through. It's very interesting. So I really appreciate your putting things in a perspective that is understandable to people. That becomes very important. Otherwise, this might sound very abstract. While for me, it does not sound abstract. It seems very clear. But you are putting together in a manner that helps clarify. Those I really appreciate. This great work.
All your blessings, Shrimanji.
So we'll meet again.
We'll definitely meet again. Before we meet, I will also send what the topic is going to be. Not that you have to prepare; it is for me to prepare.
Definitely. And I'm sure your preparation helps everybody who listens to it, because that helps make these ideas very concrete, applicable to everybody. It is not just limited to a few who are just in the spiritual path. Everybody is a spiritual being experiencing this human reality, this physical reality. So that way, these are applicable to everybody.
Yeah, I will try my best to keep these conversations simple and relatable to all our viewers. That would be the attempt here. That's it. Again, thanks for your time, Shrimanji. We'll continue the conversations.
Om Namah Shivaya.
Om Namah Shivaya.